All right, good morning, guys. Brinley, we are in week 4, day 2. Couple things, continue to put things in the group. I'm getting a lot of feedback that people are just so grateful for it. They don't have to reinvent the wheel. They don't have to get creative and spend that time getting creative. I'm really excited about today's calls and the friends that are joining us. Today, we're going to talk about luxury and raising your price point in this market. I think a lot of people don't think that it's the right time to raise your price point, and it's always the right time to raise your price point. So this morning we have Jeanette Spinelli. I'm going to let her introduce herself here in a moment, and she's going to talk to us about luxury, raising the price point. And then on our 9:30 Pacific call, Brady Sondal and his director of lead gen, Curtis Butler, are going to be joining us. Curtis has massive experience working for, I believe it was Zillow. Don't quote me on that. And so he's like a lead generating machine. So show your faces so Jeanette knows you're here and she can feel like she's talking to the group. And Jeanette, take it away.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to share with you this morning. And please ask questions because I think we can learn so much more together than Brinley and I just talking. And we'll have time to answer your questions today. As Brinley said, I'm in Austin, Texas. I specialize in luxury price points. That being said, my first year, my average price point was $99,000. So I'm a walking and talking and selling testament to gradually taking steps to move your price point up, which I had to do out of a necessity, but I think it's a wise thing for everyone to endeavor to do. And I also just want to say that I want everyone to get out of their heads this misconception that luxury is multi-million-dollar properties. Luxury can be a $500,000 property. It's about your area, what is at the top of your area, but it even isn't just about price point. I mean, luxury is about lifestyle. It's about a service approach. It's about having more of a consultation model than a selling model. All of that is luxury. It's not jet setters and people driving Ferraris. I mean, it really is just what is the top of the market in your particular area. And so when I do these talks or classes all over the US, different market centers, of course, different price points, the one thing people are always wondering is, how do I do this? Why do I do this? Where do I find these clients? And I always like to start with the why, because I think that is what drives all of us. And if your why is, and I get this a lot when I ask a question in class, a lot of times people will say, well, I want to sell a more expensive house because I want to make more money. And that really isn't a great why, no matter what your business model is, selling just to make more money. I really think that a luxury approach or an upper end price point approach business model is really about service. So if you aren't service oriented, and there's no judgment there's a lot of people who run business models that are more volume oriented. So if you're not service oriented, luxury probably, or moving up your price point, is probably not the right fit. You have much longer relationships with your clients. A lot of properties can take 2, 3, 4 times longer than your average price point in your market. So you've got to be really good at relationships. You want to be a consultant, and not just a consultant for that particular property, but a consultant for their entire portfolio. Because in each one of your markets, people that are buying at the top tier typically have discretionary income. They typically have other needs besides their primary residence. They may want to buy a vacation property. They may want to buy investment property. They may be in the position to purchase property for their college age child as an investment and as a place for them to kind of save income instead of just spending it on rent. So there's a lot of options for each individual client to be multiple sales for you. And of course that can happen at any price point. I mean, we know that. But when you're talking about working up your price point and into a higher tier, these are just some of the opportunities. Also, I know in many markets, the upper price tiers are a talent attractor. So like in my team, the agents on our team, they can do open houses that are 3-4 times higher than the average priced home. So their opportunities are different, their leads are different, and a lot of talent is really attracted to that. But I think it all kind of starts with service and being a consultant and being able to enlighten your clients and things that are important to them. And a lot of that is an investment. And I think now more than ever, when people are once again being hit with the stock market being so volatile. If any of you were in business in 2008 like I was, we know that there was an opportunity after 2008 where people did have income. And this again happens as your price point is moving up. They did have income, they had steady jobs, they had their own businesses, they had some dry powder that did not get affected by the market. And they're going to be looking to you to advise them and to consult with them. And that just typically happens at higher price ranges. So that's, to me, that's kind of the why. I think that the who, again, in your area, it can be 500,000, it can be 2 million. I mean, an affluent buyer in New York City might be 5 million, and in the Midwest, it may be a fraction of that. So again, it's not about price, but generally, people who are agents who are looking to work with the more upper tier price points and starting to move their price point up gradually, like I did. Some of the first things that they have to do is just be incredibly knowledgeable on what's happening in the financial markets. And I think this is an excellent time to be dedicating yourself to that, because no matter the price point, every single one of your clients is wanting to know what's happening. They can get a ton of information, but I think it's always been the realtor's privilege and position in their community to be the person who deciphers that information, who helps to manage that information, and helps to really dissuade or dispel rather some of the information that is poor, that really isn't applicable. And so I think this is a great time as you're at home and you're thinking, how can I, what can I do to kind of top grade my skill set? That is one area I think could be applicable to, many, many different price points. But I think the other thing to keep in mind when you're thinking about raising your price point is how you are going to do it. And of course, with all the people on the call, it's a little bit different for everybody. What I like to help people with when people call me about this type of thing is to walk them through some steps, because I think it's applicable to everybody. And again, we're talking about raising your price point, not going from where you are and quadrupling it next month. I mean, that's just not realistic. And I think particularly in this climate, that is definitely not realistic. So we're talking about taking the next step and then taking the next step. And 135 this, put it in your 411, these steps that I'm going to share with you now, because it is a process. It's not an overnight sensation. And so the first thing I would suggest that you do is look at your sphere. I mean, this is your path to least resistance, and you're all connecting with your sphere now. So you should know more about your sphere now than you did a month ago. So think about your sphere and then kind of break them down into steps. Again, we're not looking for a ton of people. We're not looking for 800 people. We're looking for an elevated group of people that you're going to focus on with new messaging, new outreach. So the first thing is just top grade your sphere by price point. Take off the top 20% and kind of put them to the side. And then look at your city's average price point, because that might be very different from where you are. Look at your city's average price point, raise that. Let's say I'm using 20%, it can be 10. I mean, there's no right or wrong. So raise that by 20%. Put those people to the side in your sphere that match up to that. So if your average price point's 500,000, the elevated price point is 600,000, who in your sphere hits that elevated price point? That's another section. Then I also like to put together a list of clients in your sphere who are your top clients by like loyalty, by referrals. They may not personally be at the top of your price point, but they're a great source for you. So put them with this group also. And then also I like to target people who've had at least 5 years of ownership, because we know theoretically they're likely to be moving soon. So put them to the side. And there might be crossover in all these 4 groups, but the net of that group, that's what I like to call your elevated SOI. So with that group, this is where you kind of get creative, and you're going to look at everything you're already doing, which I know you guys are now. I've been in conversations with you all from one coast to the other. So I know everybody's looking at what they're doing. I call it deconstructing. So deconstruct your everything, your drips, your website, your presentations, your phone consultation, your scripts. I mean, deconstruct it all and look at how you could possibly improve that, raise it to have a financial conversation, a data-driven conversation. Sometimes just the use of different words elevates the conversation. You're trying to match up your prospects who might help you move up to that next tier. And for each one of you, that tier might be a little bit different. So when you get to this kind of elevated number, taking your average and elevating it by say 20%, start looking around, where is that? So again, if our example, 500,000 is your average, and you raise your next target price point, remember we're raising the price point, not jumping 6 steps ahead, just the next price point. So it's manageable and achievable. So that new number, 600,000, look around where you're already working. Is there a neighborhood that's attached to where you have some market share that is at 600,000? Is there a neighborhood close to your child's school that's 600,000 in the same school district? I mean, find some relevance for you that you can offer something of value, and that becomes your new geographic target. And I believe that geographic targeting through mailers works very, very well when you're going in that next price point, because you can identify it, you can target those people, and you can make sure your messaging to them is really data driven and of service, which we all need to be right now. We all need to be of service, and not so much, I just sold this, I just sold that, look what I just listed, but what do they need? And in speaking of service, I'd also like to just add that, and I know Brady's, I think we'll talk a little bit about this too. So I'll let him kind of take the lead on this, but I'll just say that in service, we always say we will do anything that's not illegal, immoral, or unethical. We will help our client even if it has nothing to do with real estate. And you will see that become more and more necessary as your price point moves up. We even we have something called arrival service for our buyers and departure service for our sellers. And that entails a lot of different things. But just, as you're looking at what you're doing and thinking about the next year, maybe you're restructuring your 135 because things might be looking a little different for you like they are for us. Maybe plant those seeds in there for your growth plan. Maybe this is something you start working on and you really dig into in the fourth quarter. Just start thinking about it, because it's much easier to maintain your standard of living. If you're kind of scrapping around for deals, it's easier to bring in that same income at a higher price point if indeed you're doing less units. Mm-hmm. And it's just a different approach. Again, I think people have huge business models selling 400 units at $250,000 a piece. God bless them. I mean, I couldn't, I'm not built that way, but I think there's also another way. And again, it's not a $2 million house. It might be 650 or 750 for you. And right now your average is 600. Even that little bitty effort, that little bitty bump up over the duration, I mean, it reaps huge rewards for you financially.
Yeah, so it's gradual then suddenly, right? I also think I do want to say this, and this is me, my gift of honesty, is, it's attraction rather than promotion. So, making sure that you're the person and becoming the person that these people want to do business with. Like Jeanette said, these are people that are highly intelligent, they're very successful, they have discretionary income. So you want to be the expert in investment when you're starting to get into a relationship with these people. And I think that that is so important. I also think that, Jeanette, if you could talk a little bit, because I think there's always a limiting belief around they get comfortable at a certain price point sometimes and they don't know how to get up there. So you had a lower price point when you first came into real estate. So kind of how did you start to realize, okay, I want to raise it and get over some of those limiting beliefs around, well, only those type of agents can sell luxury?
That's a very good point. I did not grow up with a luxury background by any stretch of the imagination. I was always very intimidated by wealth and anybody who had money. Um, as I said, my average price point was $99,000 my first year. I think my highest sale was 129,000. And I, probably would have stayed at lower price points, but I was pushed into a desperate need. I had a fiance that was killed in a car accident, and overnight I was 6 figures in debt with a house half remodeled. And I looked at everything and I said, I'm never going to get out of this, and I think some people might be relating to this overwhelming fear that finances are going to be a problem. So I was living it. And I spent a lot of sleepless nights trying to figure out what in the world was I going to do. And the only thing I could come up with is I have to sell more expensive houses. And so I had to do this. There was no option. And we didn't have the internet. I mean, it wasn't as robust as it was 19 years ago. What I had to do is just become educated. And I literally would go to Borders bookstore, if you all can remember Borders, and I could afford like one cup of coffee so they wouldn't kick me out. And I would grab everything. I remember looking at the London Times and I mean, anything about architecture, anything about fine. I mean, anything about anything that I thought anyone with money might need or want to know. And that's how I educated myself. Then I sat and did other people's open houses. I was pretty much a free gopher for anyone who would allow me into their home. And I was of service to that agent. I got to a point where I couldn't even take the number of open houses agents were asking me to do. But because I sent them detailed reports at the end of the open house, I mean, detailed, I always showed up with cleaning products so I could clean the house before and after if it needed it. I mean, I was like an assistant to them for free and they loved it. So I did three to four open houses a weekend for several years. And that's how I built up my business. But I think, the story of all that is really that anybody can do it. I didn't, I didn't come from money. I didn't marry him with money. I didn't get any money when I got divorced. I didn't belong to the country club. I still don't belong to a country club. I just didn't have that background. But, frankly, I think it's almost a hindrance to come from that kind of wealth and then just think that you could just slide into that price point. I think you really do have to earn your way. I think you have to, it's almost like starting at the bottom in any industry and working your way up. I so admire people in you might hear of a CEO who started in the mailroom. I so admire people like that. And I think only by knowing everything about an industry can you really not just serve your clients, but serve other agents in the industry. And that's a big, thrill of mine to get a call from someone that I don't even know. I mean, it happens regularly. And they say, so and so told me that I should call you and I'm in this city and can I pick your brain? I mean, I love that. And I do believe the world works in a way that all evens out. And it really is a gift to me to be able to help people. So it's exciting, and anybody can get there. And as you're getting there, maybe your next step is 600,000. You've got something to teach the people at the average price point. And then your next step is 800,000. You can help people and elevate your entire market center. I mean, this is the time to take over. And it's not just you. I mean, you don't want to be pulling people. Get everybody with you. Think of ways to strategize to get to that next price point. What is the average price point in your market center? I mean, most people don't even know that. Let's put together a goal to raise that price point, and just keep in mind that most areas have some natural appreciation. So even if you want to elevate your price 20% and your area has a 4% appreciation, really the workload on you is just that 16%. So you're not carrying all that. There's just a natural draft of where everything is moving upwards.
Awesome. So we have a couple questions. Andrew, and get your questions ready, guys. This is huge. I'm shocked. You can tell the ones where I want to hear the information because I just let them go much longer than asking questions. What is the best way to, Jeanette, what's the best way to contact you, and what's your website?
The best way to contact me is Rainmaker at S as in Sam, R as in red, G as in girl, Austin.com. Oh, that's my new background.
I love that.
Rainmaker at srgaustin.com is my email. And my website's just my name, JeanetteSpinelli.com.
Awesome. And tell them, while we're on the subject, tell them a little bit about your luxury group program that you do, Jeanette.
Yeah, so we are actually in week 4. It's a 5-part series. All of it is recorded. So even if somebody wanted to sign up now, you could go back and listen to the first 3 recordings. We go Thursday, I think it's at 2 Central Time. And if you email me, I'll send you the link, but it's experiencegrowth.com, and then it's /launch-into-luxury-registration. So it's kind of long. I can email it to you. So it's 5 parts, and it's an hour each. It's very interactive. We work through exercises. There's a workbook, lots of examples. At the end of each session, we send you out links for just about everything I've talked about, where to buy things, where to go for things. And we do it like every 3 months or so. Of course, it's just a great time right now because everybody's learning.
Yeah, everyone's learning and you have a little bit of time. Any other questions for Jeanette? Oh, did I hear somebody?
Okay, I'll give you one.
Here we go.
Hey, good morning. Thanks. Good stuff, Jeanette. So I'm in Houston, and I'm a lawyer, so I have a lot of lawyer-doctor clients. So I typically have normal-priced homes and then a couple high-priced homes. How would you tell me or another agent every once in a while to say no to a luxury listing? So I had a listing for $4.8 million. Worked it for a long time, but it was just an unrealistic price point. So it was cool that I had that listing, got tons of PR, but I didn't sell the house. So I wasted tons of time and money. So how do you tell someone, yeah, that's really cool, but you could have sold $500,000 houses or whatever in that time period?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, because of course you can do everything right. You can do your consult right. You can do your marketing right. But if you don't sell it, and I think it starts with pricing. So I think the beginning is you have to be confident, you have to be strong, you have to have a lot of data to be able to present to the seller to say your 4.8 is not realistic. And if I have a spreadsheet like this long, and I know that if I go through all that with them and they still won't price properly, I just tell them, I'm sorry, I'm not the right fit for you, and I wish you so much luck. Thank you. I mean, it's as simple as that. I've had so many listings come back to me as the second, third, even fourth agent because I was a straight shooter from the beginning. Now, I don't think that there's anything wrong with taking something that's, 10% higher than your numbers, because, particularly if it's in a neighborhood where you want market share or you want to protect market share, there is always the next higher sale. So if you're confident in your abilities, you have a lot of great support, such as an amazing admin team like I have, that I'm fortunate enough to have, you know, maybe there is a possibility. So I'm not saying don't ever stretch, but things that are 20, 30, 40%, I think now particularly when we're going into this volatile market, I would just say absolutely not, as long as you've done your job in pricing. And I mean, that pricing is a 2-hour conversation, but there's a lot of different ways, particularly in luxury, that you have to get beyond the CMA. In fact, we don't even call it a CMA, but beyond your MLS data, I call it a relevant market analysis, an RMA, because as you get to higher price points, certainly the upper price points in your particular area, you may not be looking at cookie cutter master plan communities. You're looking at very unique properties with a lot of different features. And so getting to accurate pricing is not a quick CMA out of your MLS. There's a whole skill set involved in that. And once you put all that work together, and Andrew, I'm happy to talk to you offline about some tips on that. Once you put all that together and I mean, most people's quick CMA is like this one little sheet. And even in a listing appointment, I say, you know, I hold that up. Oh yeah, I've seen that before. I'm like, I'm sure you have. We don't use that. And then I, you know, unfold my huge Excel spreadsheet with all these additional columns that are not found in the MLS. If I do all of that and I do that right, and I have a persuasive argument and a killer marketing platform for them, and they still won't be realistic, I will go sell a couple of $1 million houses instead of a 4.8.
Right. No, I appreciate it. I'll reach out to you. I mean, we had a huge appraisal, but it was a big mess. But yeah, thanks.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Amanda, did you have a question? I saw you just pop up.
Yeah, so, and I joined late, so I apologize if you already answered this, but Jeanette, I'd be curious to know what your perspective is on this. My thoughts in the last couple of weeks have been, there's a lot of people who have high net wealth that just lost a whole bunch of money in the stock market. So my thought process is they're either going to have to list their homes or list properties that they have because they have multiple. What are your thoughts on that? And if so, how would you, if you think that that's a valid point, then what would be your ways in getting in with those people? Maybe you sell an investment property of theirs, or maybe you reach out to them to see if you could help sell off some of those properties to build rapport with them to eventually become their realtor of choice.
Well, I think exactly what you just shared with me, you could be sharing in your conversations with your clients. And again, I think if you take a consultative approach, you're a solution and not a salesperson. And so even your clients who maybe don't have second homes or haven't lost a lot of income, having these or a lot of their stock value, having these conversations with your sphere and saying, you know, this is what we're doing. We understand people have lost money. People may need to sell. People may need to sell their primary residence and move into something more affordable. I've had a couple of calls like that, but I think you have to be willing to broach the subject, and it has to go beyond the, hey, how are you? Do you need toilet paper conversations that we were having the first week? And now it needs to be a serious conversation. You know, I don't know if you know anyone who is in this position, but I've already been helping people with this. And I want to be of service. If you know anyone that needs to just have an ear to bend, needs some advice, please have them call me. I think you can't be afraid of the elephant in the room because of I think there is a very wonderful window of opportunity for agents to be able to I call it earning a seat at the table alongside a client's stockbroker, their accountant, their financial advisor. I mean, realtors control so much of people's net worth. And we are not in those conversations. And now's the time to earn your seat there and be part of it.
Yeah, and I'll, just.
Well, that's good, because I was thinking like that's a tough conversation to have when you call somebody that's worth a whole lot of money and say, oh, by the way, you could be running into some issues. I mean, and that could be a limiting belief of mine. And yet I'm thinking like you might get a lot of hangups on that one. So it's good to know that it's just my limiting belief.
And I wouldn't say, hey, you might be having a lot of issues. I would say,
sure.
I've been helping some clients with this. Do you know anybody? It may take them a call or two before they have the courage to say, I need help.
Yeah. if you're joining us to pray, just hold tight. We do a prayer group right after this, so just hold tight. I think a lot of people, what I'm seeing, have a limiting belief around talking about investment right now. And these are the people that wait for these down markets and store cash to take advantage of the deals. And I think we're so focused sometimes on, oh my gosh, our buyer's going to buy and our seller's going to sell, that we need to shift our thinking and to a new market. I was talking to a friend from Indeed last night, right? And you think about Indeed, this big job board right now that's probably getting flooded with resumes, yet the majority of companies are on a hiring freeze. And so they shifted and pivoted, and now they're targeting grocery stores, distribution centers, right, that are hiring in bulk. So it's pivoting and asking yourself, where is our market right now, right? Does that make sense, Jeanette? Do you agree?
Yes, absolutely. I think there are a lot of people who may have lost money. I think there are a lot of people who have dry powder.
Yes.
And people who lost a chunk in 2008 probably did not make that same mistake. You know, and again, this can be any price point. This is not just people buying $1 million houses. I mean, a lot of people are investors.
Yeah.
I took 2 calls yesterday from people who I had left messages, care calls, and then they were calling back. Both of them are investors. I would definitely be reaching out. I would have your messaging, whether it's in social media or drips, whatever you do, talking about this subject. I mean, this is the time to be creating this content that can hit investors, vacation home buyers. The people with money that haven't lost a lot are going to be looking for some deals. And I do think there are going to be some deals out there.
100%. Well, thank you guys so much, Jeanette. Thank you for your time, my friend. We're going to stay on and pray. So if you'd like to join us, we have a prayer group at 9 o'clock every Tuesday, Thursday. Otherwise, have an amazing day and join us this afternoon if you're East Coast, or this morning if you're West Coast, for Brady and Curtis. It'll be a great call. All right, guys, have a great day.
Cool. Thank you, Jeanette.